Hi creatives, and welcome back to Agency Academy. Here we talk about how to build a business that really works for you so you have more freedom to create and do the things that you love. Today we're going to talk about a topic that I think a lot of us are thinking about lately, and that is passive income. So before we dig in, this is going to be a very actionable video, but it's also going to be a way to, rather than just listing lots of ways that you can do passive income, I want to also talk about how to find the type of passive income that works specifically for you, like your skills, your personality, your needs, things like that. And we're also going to talk about things like how you're going to be thinking about it from a branding perspective. Are you going to create a new brand for your passive income, or are you going to do it under your personal brand, or maybe if you have a company brand? So thinking about lots of details around passive income, what to think about, what to make sure you plan for, and kind of what to expect from different kinds of passive income. So if that sounds really interesting, then stay with me and we're going to talk everything passive income. This video is created specifically for people working in the creative profession, so it can be like illustration, graphic design, branding, website design, copywriting, things like that. I think a lot of the tips still are valid if you don't, but that's where my expertise is, so I just wanted to bring that up. Before we dig into different types of passive income, I just wanted to talk about really quickly what is passive income and kind of what to expect. So passive income is often seen as this kind of like holy grail where you don't have to do much and you'll be earning money as you sleep. That's often a term that you hear. And while that's true, I think that it's important to think about when you'll be putting up the work. So either in passive income, some ideas, you put up the work up front by, let's say, creating a course. That means that you're putting in a lot of work, maybe intensively for a few weeks, then you launch it, and then regardless of how many you sell, you still make money and you don't have to do any more work. So that's one type of passive income. Another type of passive income is when things that you've created accumulate, but there's a need for you to continuously create. So that can be things like creating YouTube videos, where in order for your old videos to get views, you need to keep posting new videos. But your old videos are still getting views, and if you're monetized, they can still be making you money. And so it's basically growing every month, and you don't have to create everything from scratch because your old content is still getting you lots of views and money. There's also one other aspect to consider, which is how you prefer to work and how kind of like your network already looks. So in some cases, passive income will be really focused on creating that one asset and then adding it to a platform that already has a big audience. In that case, you're putting up the effort up front. But in some cases, you might be creating something and putting it where you can earn a little bit more money, let's say per sale, but you have to do the marketing. So I think if you have, let's say, a big audience already, that's something that can work really well because you make much more money per sale, but you have to do that marketing effort yourself, which I think a lot of people feel it makes it feel less passive. So if you can automate it, if you feel like marketing isn't that difficult, that's totally fine, and then you can do it that way. So basically, I think that the very first step that you should go through when you're thinking about passive income is to start by thinking about a couple quick questions. The first one is just, what am I really good at? Like if you're really good at copywriting, then maybe a course on copywriting tips is great. If you're really good at animation, maybe doing like tutorials or a bundle of animations that people can purchase, like an animation pack, for example, is a really good idea. You don't have to think about the end format, but just like make a list of what am I really good at and what do I enjoy doing. You can also write a separate list for what am I excited to learn. So in my case, before I started doing videos, I had zero experience doing videos. And so that would not have been on my list of what I'm good at. But I was really curious and I was excited to try it. And if you look back at the old videos that we did in the beginning, I hope you'll think that the new ones are a little bit better. So it's just been a skill that has grown with me. And so I think that if there's something you're really curious about, then you can put that on a list as well. Because if you're excited about something, it doesn't really feel as hard to put down the work and like learn it as a skill as you're creating the things that you're selling. The next thing I think you should answer as a question is just what you're expecting and what you're hoping to get from the passive income. Is this something where you're hoping it will happen really fast? Are you okay with it taking a little bit longer to happen? Are you looking for it to replace your existing income, or is it more something that is like a nice buffer or something that will make you a little bit more safe in your income, for example? So I think it's really good to think about like the timelines, the expectations, and just write that down. So that will help you pick the type of passive income as well. So I think all you guys are really curious about different ways that you can earn passive income. So I thought we would dive right into the different types of passive income. And I'm sure there's lots of them that I've missed. So if there's anything that you want to add, please add it in the comments. But these are ones that I think are really good specifically for creative professionals. And so the very first one is creating and selling some type of template. And this is actually a really, really broad category because you could do templates in basically anything. Like if you're someone who is good at graphic design or social media, you could create Canva templates that you can sell to people. So if you already, let's say, have a following somewhere and they're already businesses and entrepreneurs, then you can create Canva templates that you can sell to them, and that could be a really, really good source of passive income. If you're great at animation, you could, for example, sell templates for After Effects, or if you're good at video, you can do Premiere Pro. It could be lots of different templates, and you have to think about the audience because your audience doesn't necessarily have to be the same audience that your core business has. So if you feel like you have skills that other creatives want, you can create templates for other designers. So if you feel like, people always want templates for PowerPoint presentations, then you can create templates for PowerPoint presentations. And they don't even have to be in programs that non-designers use because your target audience can be creatives. So start by thinking about like what sounds interesting. If I want to create a template, what could I do? What do I see people frequently hiring me for that I'm really good at? And what can I bring to the table? So like one that I've been toying with is we get a lot of bigger businesses that are asking for pitch presentation templates. And they're a little bit unsure what to put, but the sections are almost always the same. So that's one that could be a template, for example. So I think this is a great place to start. If you want some inspiration and also to do a little bit of background research, I think it can be really good to go to places where you would be listing your templates. For example, places like Creative Market, they have lots and lots of templates, or Envato, for example. They have so many different templates, and so exploring there and seeing, like, is there a segment of templates that are missing that I could be filling, or do I just feel like my type of design style is missing, or am I just having a better concept and better ideas than the ones that are already there? And that will also give you an idea of like the type of prices that people are charging for them, and you can also look into the processes of how it works to list your templates on those sites. The next one that I want to talk about as a type of passive income is selling courses. And when I say selling courses, I think a lot of you are thinking about video, which makes sense because a lot of courses do have some sort of video component, but they really don't have to. So a course can be video formatted, or it can be even a PDF that you can fill in as you're working through your way through the course. It can be things like a PowerPoint presentation that you're doing a voiceover so that you don't actually have to be on camera if that's not something you're comfortable with. But I think that the core thing that you need to think about when you're creating a course is just to think about the structure of the actual classes. So let's say you're teaching a topic on logo design. Start by thinking about what questions typically come up, and then think about the process of creating that logo from beginning to end. And find a logical structure to lay out your course. Because the biggest mistake I see when people are creating courses that aren't doing so well is they are not having a clear progression through classes. When you're looking for a course and you want to take a course, you want to feel encouraged to continue. You want to see that the sort of end result has a logical process to it, and that makes you feel a lot more confident that the course will actually deliver on what it is that it's saying that it's going to do. So before you start creating anything, really think about all the questions that would come up, the process of getting there, how you think the classes can be laid out. And it can be a really good idea to ask someone who is completely out of your field, that would be in your target audience, what they think. Would this be a logical structure? If you decide to do video or audio recordings, I think it's really, really good to take some time and make sure that they are good enough quality. And when I say good enough quality, I don't mean you have to be like top production. I think something where you're not getting sort of annoyed at the audio or video is a good enough level to start for your first course. And if you look at other people's courses, other people's YouTube videos, you probably can feel yourself like, oh, I would click away from this video right away because it's so frustrating to watch or to listen to. And in that case, that's not good enough. But if you're listening to the content and you think, yeah, the video's okay, that's usually good enough to get started. Because like I mentioned before, as you sort of progress and you try to record more and more different classes, you'll get better. And so if you feel like you want to do a couple test recordings and practice and then record your final one, that works perfectly too. And there's some great tutorials on things like YouTube about how to improve your audio and your video quality in, let's say, Premiere Pro. So if you have access to those tools, it's always a good idea to test record before you sit down to do the whole course and just get a little bit of an understanding of what can I do, let's say, to my room to make sure that the audio quality is better. Can I record in a bigger room rather than a small room, in a room with lots of soft furnishings to make the noise a little bit sort of softer and more pleasant to listen to? And so there's lots of these things where you can try it out, you can see how the natural lighting is working for your video quality and just see what works for you. I really don't think you have to buy any new expensive equipment in order to get started, especially when you're testing it out. And sometimes you can also find like a colleague or a friend or even like these different libraries that loan you different equipment. Universities often have like let's say a music department that can let you rent equipment. So have a look at lots of options before you feel like you need to commit to buying something. One bonus tip that I think a lot of people who are creating courses are missing out on is creating a really great experience for their students by making everything in the course very, very actionable. So if you're watching a course and you're feeling like, okay, well, this is 2 hours that I'm just sitting here listening and watching and hoping that I'm taking in all this information, people tend to get very bored. They tend to zone out a little bit. So if you can create, let's say, one task or one challenge or one type of workshop element for each stage of your process in the class, I think that's really valuable. And you can create like a workbook that they can fill it into, or you can even have an option if you're doing something like on Skillshare to have a class project where they can discuss with other students and do lots of things like this. So I think when it feels interactive and they have also created something, either, written down strategy stuff or created an illustration or an animation or whatever it is that you're teaching them at the end of the project, they will already feel that sense of reward and they will feel much better about their purchase. So they'll be more likely to recommend it to someone, to come back to buy more of your classes in the future, and just like feel really good about their purchase. The great thing about recording a course, either if you're doing like an audio or video recording, or if you have like a workbook, is that you can use it in lots of different ways. So if you have a video course, then you can actually choose to either put it on your website, which means that you'll get all the profits and you can set your own price, but you also have to do all the marketing. Or you can choose to list it on a place like, let's say, Teachable, where you have to drive the traffic there, but they have a little bit of their own network and you don't have to actually build out any pages on your website, which can be really good. Or you can do the much more sort of like passive, I guess, aspect, which is to list it on Skillshare, which means that you actually upload it there, they already have everything put up for you, and then their internal network, in my experience, is quite good at driving traffic to your classes. So if your classes look really interesting to people and you have that target audience understanding correctly, then it's much easier to not have to do so much marketing because Skillshare already has their built-in network already. If you are really experienced in your field and you feel like you have something that you really want to share, maybe you're sort of like 10 years into your career and you feel like you really want to teach your first class, but you want a little bit more support, there are also specific sites that have very, very curated type of content where you have to be approved and they can help you produce things like Domestika, for example. they only really list people that they have approved, and there's usually a very strict curation process, and in my understanding, they also help with recording. The next type of passive income that I want to talk about is memberships. And this is one that I don't hear as much about, but I'm a really big fan of this one. So a membership can feel like a really big undertaking, and it can be, but it also doesn't have to be. So with a membership, basically all that you have is that you have something of value that you're offering, and then you have either a monthly subscription or you can have a lifetime subscription where people can pay once a month or a one-off payment to access the things that you are offering. And so that can be anything from classes to tips to additional blog posts to YouTube videos or basically anything that you want. It can be graphical assets, templates, anything that you want. So if you feel like, let's say maybe you have quite a big newsletter list, but you're not really using the newsletter list to get clients, maybe you feel like that's too big of an ask, and most people on your newsletter are maybe a little bit more interested in getting support and tips, but aren't quite as ready to purchase a bigger service from you. I think memberships can be really good. You can either set it up on your website, and there's lots of different ways to do this where you don't have to actually build it out completely yourself, depending on the platform that you're using. So I know that WordPress, for example, actually has a plugin for it. If you're using Webflow, then you can either use something called MemberStack, which I've been using before. And I have also heard rumors actually that Webflow are launching their very own membership setup. So I don't know what that it looks like yet, but it does sound very interesting. The way that memberships tend to work is that you have some sort of password protected pages on your website, but you can also, let's say, have a Facebook group where it's a private Facebook group and you have to join and pay a fee to be part of the Facebook group. And so it doesn't even have to be assets that you're putting on your website. It could even be a private Facebook page or any other social media page where you can have some sort of private version of it. And then you can give business tips, you can share videos, you can do all of these different things. How passive this is, it really depends on how you set it up. So if, let's say, you're creating a bunch of assets up front, and then you're creating a password protected version of your website behind a payment wall, you only really have to create it once. And then if you have good SEO, people could find it organically and you don't have to actually do anything. If you're doing something more like where people are getting access to a community, then they're probably expecting a little bit more updating, but you can always batch create that content, schedule it, and then it still has quite a passive aspect to it. And you can also decide how much you want to, upload and how much you want to update it as well. If you want like an example schedule, I have actually listed the blog posts that we've written on the same topic down in the description. And there on the sort of membership aspect or membership portion of it, you'll see that I have like a sample schedule of what our membership for sustainable businesses looked like, where we had a password protected site with lots of tips and helpful advice and videos, and then a Facebook page where we posted different things throughout the month. So the next source of passive income I want to talk about is YouTube. And since you're already here, I feel like you probably are quite familiar with how YouTube works and basically how that could be a source of income. But just to give you a little bit of an explanation, so if you have at least 1,000 subscribers and at least 4,000 watch hours in the last year, you're eligible to apply to get paid from YouTube and creating YouTube videos. And you'll get paid depending on how many people are watching your videos, and also looking at the demographics, because it's based on ad revenue, which means that some audiences are more profitable than other audiences. So it's something where some creators earn a lot per view and some earn a little bit less per view. Basically, what I think about YouTube is that YouTube is a really exciting platform if you are interested in creating helpful content and you have a very long time perspective. I think with YouTube, if you're posting at least one video a week for 1 to 2 years, you can expect to receive that monetization as long as you're listening to your audience, you're consistently trying to improve and create really good content. But that means that there's a long time before you actually start making money. And for some people, it goes much faster, and I've seen people do it in a few months, and for some people, it takes longer. So I think with YouTube, it is a really good idea if you feel like it's already kind of a good social media platform for you. So let's say that you are selling illustration to different clients and you're maybe talking about editorial illustration, then you can have a channel where you're explaining the creative process around it, where you're showing your illustration skills. And it could be a great way to actually attract clients and build a lot of expertise and to build your brand as a company as well. So if you feel like you don't need to make money from it right away, but it's a great way to get more people to your website, to get more leads, and to get a lot of eyes on you. And if you feel like maybe there's a fun aspect of the community of talking to people in the comments and having a bit of back and forth on your creative process, I think that's something that could be a really good idea for you. If you're creating a YouTube channel, I think the most important thing is to just sit down and think about the niche that you want to use. So there's a lot of creators on YouTube and there can be lots more. But the thing is that's important is just to understand your audience, just like you do with your own brand. To try to understand what type of videos will I be posting and how will it work, how often will I be posting, and what is going to go into creating a video. For example, is it going to be kind of like a talking head like a lot of our videos are, or is it going to be a little bit more like, let's say, time lapses of my illustrations? Is it going to be like screen recordings where I'm showing lots of tips and things? So just trying to get a sense of how the creative process is going to look for creating your videos. I think it's also a really good idea to just make a list of a bunch of topics when you have lots of people that are commenting on your videos and when you're seeing what works best. You're going to start having ideas of how you can do tangents on those different things that are doing well, and you might get requests for videos, but it's really, really good to have a proper list of, I don't know, like 20 different videos that you want to do topics on that you feel comfortable in creating. In that way, when you're getting started, you don't have to each video think about what the topic should be, because that becomes very tedious, it can be a bit stressful, and it means that you probably will stop before you start seeing some traction. There is, however, lots of other ways to make money with YouTube besides the actual ad revenue, which is what you get from YouTube. And so one of those is affiliate marketing, which is when you have a link to something. So let's say you're talking about a really good design book that you love, then you can put a link in the description that is a specific affiliate link, which means that when someone purchases that book using your link, you get a kickback from that. So that's one way to make money. Another one is to have sponsors. So if you get big enough, you can have sponsors, which is a great way. And there's actually lots of different references for how much to charge, depending on how many people are watching your videos and the click-through rate and stuff like that. But it's also something that you need to consider only once you have a bigger following and a bigger audience. And finally, as I mentioned before, it can actually be a really good way to get clients for your business. So it doesn't just have to be a way to earn money specifically through YouTube, but it can be like any social media where it can actually make you money by driving people to a course that you're selling or to your traditional design services, for example. So the next source of passive income I want to talk about is selling prints. And when I'm saying prints, I don't just mean like a poster that you can put on your wall, but basically anything that people can either download or print. So it can be anything from creating a piece of art to creating stickers or planners or, these like downloadable pieces of art that you can print on your home printer. You could do phone cases. It could basically be anything. When you're thinking about how to sell your prints, I think there are basically like 3 different strategies of how to do it. The first one is to, again, sell on your website, which means that you have to build the portion of your website that is a store, or use a sort of like aspect of your website builder, for example, that uses a type of store function. And then you have, again, full control of prices, but you also have to create the artwork, or you have to make it as a downloadable file, for example. The next option is to list it on a site like Etsy, where lots of people are already coming, searching for things like this, which means there'll be more competition, but there'll already be a built-in audience. So that can be another option. And then the third one is to list it on a site like, for example, Society6, where all you have to do is upload your artwork and they actually take care of all of the printing. And so you can just upload the artwork and then decide, let's say I want to print it on pillows, on tote bags, and on phone cases. So it gives you a lot of freedom and it gives you a sort of built-in audience, but it usually requires some level of marketing anyway. I think whenever you're selling prints, it's kind of has to be treated like your own storefront or shop. So it's a really good idea to consider taking a really nice picture of you, maybe in the setting of creating your artwork, You want to have a nice bio that explains the type of prints that you're creating or the type of artwork that you like to create. And make sure that you create a consistent style so that people know what to come to your store for. And this means that it's a lot easier for people to recognize your brand and recommend it to someone or come back to purchase something else. Something you have to consider whenever you're selling a physical product or whenever you're selling something on these different sites is to really think about VAT and shipping costs. So if you're selling a physical product, you need to look into how much it costs for packaging around your product, for shipping, and how long it will take, and different terms you can offer your customers. And so that will be a little bit easier if you're listing it through a site like Society6 because they tend to take care of that stuff for you. But if you're listing it on your own website or even sometimes on Etsy, you have to just be aware of those different things. And the last type of passive income I want to mention really quickly is just affiliate marketing, which we already touched upon when we talked about YouTube. So basically, if let's say you have a blog that's doing really well and you just don't have any way to monetize it, but you actually have quite a few people who come there, you can use affiliate marketing to bring in some money. So that can be like creating these unique links from lots of companies that have them. And that means that when you put that link, which must feel natural, I think, in the flow of your content. So I wouldn't put a link for a toaster in a blog post about traveling, for example. But if it feels like it belongs there and is a useful tip for your audience, then by all means put it, and then you get a kickback if they purchase something, and sometimes even if they just visit the site. So the last thing we're going to talk about before we end this video is going to be if you should create a new brand for your passive income, or if you should go under your company name, or if you as you have a personal brand that is your company, if you should go under your personal brand. And the quick answer is it depends on if you're using the same target audience. If you feel like your target audience is the same, let's say you're selling to entrepreneurs in your main business and your products are also targeted toward entrepreneurs, then I think it's totally fine to keep it under the same brand. That means you don't have to create a new one, you don't have to build up a new audience or awareness. And I think that is something that can be quite a good strategy because you just have a lot less work up front. However, if you're selling something that is very, very different from your normal offer, or if it's just like a really, really different audience, I think it's a good idea to create a separate brand. Just because when you're, let's say, posting to social media, if you keep posting to very, very different audiences or just completely different content that isn't something that your other audience is interested in, then I think it just becomes very muddled and it can make your marketing quite confusing. So I think basically, is the audience the same is the key question. I hope you found this video helpful. If there are any sources of passive income that you are super curious about that you want me to dive deeper into, or if there are any that you thought I was missing, please make sure to leave a comment. If you like this type of content and you want to see more, then make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you get notified. Thank you so much for watching and good luck with your projects.